Creep. I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Flying saucers, which are really, yeah, you got it, time machines. I think a lot about this kind of stuff.
You think this is the real Quaid? It is.
All right, welcome back to Terrortinos. In this episode, we're going to be giving our top 5 holiday movies from the 80s and 90s. How did you compile your list, Angel? I mean, it was kind of hard to kind of pinpoint some of these movies down.
Well, my thing too was what constitutes a holiday movie. So I just went generic across the board. There has to be some setting of the movie that transpires during a holiday. It doesn't have to necessarily be about anything like subplot of the movie where they're trying to get somewhere for Christmas or something like that. Mm-hmm. Like if you look outside, somebody has Christmas lights in their house, that qualified.
Yeah, I mean, I try to like think outside of the box a little bit. I didn't want to particularly pick like just Christmas movies. Because I think because of the rise of in the 80s, the rise of the VHS, we tend to pick different movies back then for Christmas. I mean, I think if you're coming from the 70s and 60s, you had to only rely on TV, and the normal programming at the time would be kind of the classic films.
They decided what were Christmas movies,
and it was always kind of those typical Christmas movies, musicals, the old school stuff. And now with the rise of VHS, and you go to blockbusters, you pick different ones. You pick kind of the action, or at least in my case, some of the action films, or some of the kind of different types of Christmas movies.
Yeah, and see, me personally, I like holiday movies, or this was for me holiday, not necessarily Christmas, right?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so holiday, Christmas movies, I'm just not a huge fan, like, because most of them, they have the same kind of a story arc and all the stuff, but, I mean, I do appreciate a good one, but it's like, if you ask somebody your top 5 Christmas movies, you're going to get the same top 5. Like if you just ask a normal person, it's because that's what they think of when they think of Christmas, or they think of the holidays. You know what I mean? They're going to give you the Wonderful Life. If they're going to go crazy and say like Christmas Vacation, you know what I mean? That's going to be their big wow one.
Yeah.
Like check me out, I'm going outside, but.
Or like White Christmas, kind of those classics, musical ones. Yeah,
they're gonna Google it and then come up with the top 5.
But we wanted to think. I'm assuming you had the same idea that we wanted to kind of pick different ones, and so I'll start with my number 5 pick. Initially, I was gonna pick Die Hard, but we just talked about Die Hard in our previous episode. So
yeah, I left the Gremlins out of mine too.
So I went kind of the same route. I mean, it's Die Hard 2, my Die Harder. This is from 1988. And it's almost
totally different movie.
But it's almost the same kind of movie too. I mean, it's
the same.
But I think,
isn't this the airport one?
Yeah, this is the airport one. This is directed by Rennie Harlin. This is when John McClane tries to avert a disaster when terrorists takes control of a airport in Washington D.C. And I think when people talk about the great movie sequels, the common answer is most likely Godfather 2. Rocky 2, the Empire Strikes Back, and sometimes people bring up Terminator 2, Aliens, Spider-Man 2, Toy Story 2. I think people should add Die Hard 2 to the conversation. I think a lot of times this movie is left out or overlooked because I think people think this is a silly action movie, and they're not wrong about that, but it's a pretty good, damn entertaining movie. It's a really strong sequel to an already terrific action film. And I remember watching this movie in theaters and just being blown away by how well it was able to kind of repeat some of the same story beats from the original film, but also add enough new add some enough of new spin to it that didn't necessarily make it feel repetitive, or it's like kind of repeating the same thing. And I just remember thinking, oh man, this John McClane character just has the worst luck in the world. But Bruce Willis, he kind of mentions that in the movie. He kind of acknowledges that this is a little ridiculous. Like, there's a quote in the movie where he kind of goes, how can the same shit happen to the same guy twice? And another time in the movie, someone goes, you're the wrong guy in the wrong place at the wrong time, where Bruce Willis says, story of my life, So
if only he knew he was going to happen 2 more times.
So yeah, but I think that the way they acknowledge the ridiculousness of this, and it gives you a little more space, and it gives you kind of permission to laugh at it. And I think because of that, you're able to enjoy the ride more. And also, what's also great about this movie is that it has I'm a huge fan of the actor William Sadler. And this is probably the first film I really first took notice of how great of a character actor he is. He plays one of the main bad guys in the movie called Colonel Stewart. And he is, he's done a lot of things. He was in Green Mile. He was in Bill and Ted as Deaf. But in his movie, he has kind of the strangest introduction in cinema history. He's doing naked Tai Chi in his hotel room. And I'm like, what is this? This shouldn't work. But we should be laughing at this. But it's in this movie, it makes perfect sense. It's like the perfect mix of camp and dramatics. And the way he ends that scene is so funny and fantastic, because he quickly grabs the TV remote, does a full spin. Mind you, he's naked. And he aims the remote to the TV like a gunslinger,
like a gun,
and then it shoots the TV or turns off the TV. And I go, I don't know, man, that's such a strange image, but it works in this movie. And his performance in the film is great. Again, I think with these little fun moments in the film, it gives us permission to really enjoy the movie for what it is. It's really kind of silly, yet it's an awesome action movie set during Christmas. And yeah.
It is a Christmas movie for sure.
All right, what is your fifth or your number 5 slot?
Horror fan, had to get in a werewolf movie. Okay. For my 5th entry, Silver Bullet. I know what you're thinking, but you have to think what constitutes holidays, right? The holiday season, to me, begins, the 2 biggest, Christmas, Thanksgiving, but it begins with Halloween. Okay, let's say Halloween's the gateway, right?
Okay,
to the holiday season.
Okay,
so we accept Halloween as the
starting point,
the holiday season.
Okay,
yeah, okay, cool. So the movie ends on Halloween night. Huh?
Okay,
so it counts. The whole scene when the mom leaves at the end, she says, don't stay up too late for trick-or-treaters.
Okay.
Boom. So, Silver Bullet, classic, directed by Daniel Attias, starring Corey Haim, Gary Busey, written by, it's actually based off the Cycle of the Werewolf by Stephen King. Awesome. It's so funny because I never used to read, and then I had a job where I have to drive real far, so what I would do is I would download the audiobooks. And I had seen this movie 100 times, and I finally decided to download the audiobook. It's weird because the movie has a running time of 135, and the audiobook is 180, 180 minutes, so it's pretty close. Audiobook's amazing. It's a great story. It's not a classic holiday tale.
It's a little stretch.
It's a stretch, but I had to get it in there, man.
It's your number 5. It's your number 5.
It's
right?
number 5. That's why it's all the way at 5. But yeah, Corey Haim, he's a kid in a wheelchair. He's doing fireworks. He comes across a werewolf, attacks him, shoots the werewolf in the eye. All of a sudden, him and his sister start searching with somebody with an eye patch. They find him. They kind of send him some letters. They bring their uncle into it, who's Gary Busey, who's perfect Gary Busey. I think he has 20 lines and only 5 where he's talking, and the rest he's got his high pitch. What do you mean? You know what I mean? But it's classic. There's got a little twist at the end. In case you haven't seen it, I don't want to ruin it for you, but it's got Everett McGill, and I remember watching this one when I was a little kid with my mom. And my mom, I think she's the reason why I like horror movies, because she figured if I knew it was scary, I would just leave when I got scared.
Oh.
But I think kids are the opposite. You're so scared you don't want to move. Like, so I never moved. And I mean, she watched them during the day and stuff. But yeah, this one haunted me for years. But yeah, I always loved the storyline to it. I watch it maybe twice a week. It's from the opening scene where the sister narrates how the long summer started that night to all of a sudden where she wishes her brother good night. Because it's funny because she starts the beginning and the end, but you forget that the whole thing is a narrative. Anyway, I watch it. It's always on in the background, basically. Just like I said with the where you could put something on and do your Christmas. Yeah. Like I work and all I do is type, so instead of listening to music, I just put something on in the background that I've like watched 1,000 times, and usually probably about twice a week that one's on.
And you're a huge werewolf fan. I mean, you love that kind of mythology of it, and
I love that, and I love the fact that Stephen King's a great writer.
That's true.
There's a good twist. Especially when I was a kid. That's the thing about if you have a kid watch a movie and there's a kid in it, there's something weird, a connection with it. It's just like you have to watch those, not watch those like you must sit down and watch them. You have to watch those movies around your kids, because I remember my brother asking me if Pan's Labyrinth was good. And I'm like, dude, Pan's Labyrinth is great. He calls me about 45 minutes later yelling at me, like, what the hell? Why didn't you tell me it was so scary? And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's, I'm watching it with my kids. And his kids are like 7 and 4. I'm like, well, goddamn, you didn't tell me you were watching it with your kids. I'm like, there's a monster that eats kids in the movie. You know, why would you sit your kid down? And the little girl's in the movie, so he figured that would be fine. But yeah, when there's a little kid, so I've always made sure that when there's a little kid in the movie, but like my kids, they watched that movie once and thought it was lame. My Silver Bullet. I'm like, dude, how could you? I watched this with your grandma, and she loved it. I loved it. But yeah, that's my entry for number 5. Okay. And it counts because it's Halloween.
It ends at Halloween Eve.
Ends on Halloween Eve. Yes, day of Halloween.
My 4th pick is a movie. I think this is really going to explain the difference between you, Angel, and me. Is that you love horror movies. I love action movies. This is another action movie. This also set during Christmas. It's also surprisingly another movie that's directed by Rennie Harlin, who's not my favorite action director, but I had to pick this one. Because this is written by Shane Black. It's A Long Kiss Goodnight. This is
oh my god, really?
What? You don't like this movie?
I want to say that my brother watched this movie so many times that I couldn't. He like killed it for me.
I love this movie. I think this is a very funny, clever action film. Shane Black he wrote this film. He also wrote Lethal Weapon. He went on to write and direct Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. He also wrote and directed Iron Man 3.
Was he in Predator?
He was in Predator. I think he also did some script doctoring for Predator. But all his movies are set during Christmas, or most of all of his movies are set in Christmas. And I could easily put Lethal Weapon in this slot.
Yeah,
but I wanted to go with more of a cult film. I think A Long Kiss Goodnight is a really good film, mainly because it's Gina Davis' performance and her chemistry with Samuel L. Jackson. I think Samuel L. Jackson is the breakout star in this movie, and this is probably my favorite role of his since Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction, he's tremendous in Pulp Fiction. And then he kind of did a couple of really okay parts. I mean, they're good, but they're okay. He was in Kiss of Death for a small part. He was in Die Hard with a Vengeance. Speaking of Die Hard, he's really good in that movie.
Dude, he was good in Black Snake Moan.
He was good in Black Snake Moan, but I'm just saying... this is, Pope. I'm talking about his post-Pulp Fiction roles, and he was really good in Time to Kill. But then this movie came out, and I think this is probably his best performance since Pulp Fiction. He has done really good stuff afterwards, but I think I love his character in this film. And look, this is kind of an assassin action film. Gina Davis is playing a single mother, school teacher. She's like kind of an average housewife, and she's raising her daughter, and then she has these kind of memories, these repressed memories, because she suffers from memory loss. She has amnesia, and she doesn't remember her past, or kind of doesn't remember who she is. And then slowly but surely, we find out that she's a government agent named Charlie. And Samuel L. Jackson is playing this shady private eye detective guy who tries to help her find clues about her past. And it's a kind of a road picture. And I just found this to be really good. I think the dialogue is very funny. The thing that the movie lacks is kind of these really great action scenes. It doesn't have the same kind of technical precision of a Die Hard film, but I think the driving force behind this movie is really Gina Davis's performance, and like I said, her chemistry with Samuel L. Jackson. And also, I love this cameo, or a small part from Brian Cox.
Yeah.
He's fantastic in the film, and I just love the dialogue in the movie. And it's a fun kind of really cool action movie set during Christmas. So that's my number 4 pick.
That's good. I gotta give that one a try again. Okay, from the green team, number 4 pick. Okay, this movie ends at Christmas time, okay? So that's what qualifies it. And this is the last of the questionable holiday flicks.
Okay.
1984's Red Dawn.
Oh, shit.
It ends on Christmas. It does, remember? Because they're on the bench, and yeah, with the Cuban guy, and yep. Okay, so that's my 4th one.
It's a great movie. Yeah,
it is, but you just have to... You have to believe that it's a holiday classic. So directed by John Milius. This one's kind of like, okay, so everybody watched, I'm saying to myself, everybody watched Outsiders. That was all the big names of all the people at that point in time. Mm-hmm. Now this, same thing. I mean, when you think about all the actors that were in it, I mean, they had Charlie Sheen. I mean, it was basically most of the same cast as the Outsiders. Mm-hmm. You had Patrick Swayze, Leah Thompson, even the guy that played Daryl. He was the Soch that. That from the Outsiders. Yeah, and it's funny because when you look at his the cast in Red Dawn, his picture is the cast picture from Outsiders. And I mean, you got to think Powers Booth. This movie was a great movie, and this one was okay. I'm not a political person at all. But one thing you had to like about action movies in the 80s, we always wanted somebody to hate. You know what I mean? And it was never like, oh, we don't like a guy or this. We chose the biggest country in the world. Like, we don't like Russia. Russia doesn't like us. They're the opposite of what we stand for. So, to get everybody like on the American bandwagon, what better way than to have like a faction of Russia via Cuba, take over a small town in America, and then you look, and then it's really everywhere. And I mean, it's awesome. It's a bunch of kids having to fight back. So the invasion starts. They all take off into the hills. Their whole way of life is changed. Everything is under. Like, it basically is like they just took a part of America and made it like the Soviet Union, where they're in charge of every aspect of life.
Yeah, it's an occupation of small town America. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And they just hide up in the woods, and all of a sudden they find out at a larger scale that there's an actual line drawn, like everything like east of the Mississippi River is like free America. And it kind of draws to your whole patriotism if you're me. And when you were a kid, like, when you were a kid, you wanted that Goonies, you wanted that adventure kind of a movie. Uh-huh. You might not have wanted it with so much on the line as far as like killing and, all that kind of stuff. But then these kids get together and they decide to try to fight back and take their town back. Mm-hmm. I mean, nothing says the holidays. Stealing a tank and blowing half your city up to save it.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you like Rambo, those type of movies, I think this is actually better than those type of movies. This is
way better.
This is a fun kind of fantasy film, really. I mean, I think it's kind of a modern day kind of Lord of the Flies, where you gotta have.
And it's almost like one of those ones where it's a little deeper because, like, one of the first places they go, it's just a truck full of like young men, and they pull out the two girls from the cellar. You know what I mean?
Oh, right.
So it's kind of like. Yeah, it's like, hey, this is our last stand, our last chance.
Yeah, I mean, you could say it's an anti-communist type of movie, but it's also, I think it's playing some of the imagery of some of the Nazi invasions in World War II, where they're occupying, when Germany occupied Poland or, France or these type of stuff. I mean, you got kids hiding in basements and stuff like that. I think, yeah, it's a fun, like, kind of, again, me being a really action fanatic. I love this movie. I didn't realize it was a Christmas movie though.
It ends. Remember, it ends. They're on the bench. There's Christmas stuff in the background. Okay. Yeah. And I was gonna say, the thing that I love about this flick is not just that it's campy, but like when you look at the cast, if you look, dude, there's so many great actors. It's amazing how like when you can go back and you can see that there was like the spot that everybody's drawn from. Mm-hmm. So I love those kind of movies. I love those eclectic movies where it's just like The Outsiders, like almost all the Brat Pack movies. Dude, those are some of my faves.
It also has a really great brotherly kind of storyline about the two brothers.
Oh yeah,
and it's like it's very sad at the end, but I love it. I mean, I think that's the thing I remember most of it. Those two.
Do you know how many times we've wanted to piss in the radiator just to see if it would work?
How many times we wanted to scream Wolverines and
Dude, I do it all the time.
All right, so for my third pick, which I think you could also consider this as one of the great movie sequels, arguably. This is a movie that I didn't like at first, though, and I thought actually the movie was pretty inferior to the original. But it wasn't until my younger brother kind of told me to rewatch the movie because he thought this is actually better than the original. So I did, and although I still think it's not better than the original film, but I think in a lot of ways it improves on the original film, and I think it further kind of represents the vision of director Tim Burton. My number third pick is Batman Returns. This is actually a Christmas movie. This is set during Christmas. It's also it's a fun, also comic book movie. And like I was saying, I didn't get it at first. I think I thought, because I love the original film. I love the original Batman movie, and I think this was maybe too many characters. I mean, but watching it again a couple years ago, I go, this is actually great. I mean, Tim Burton, I think he felt a little more comfortable or a little more confident when he was doing this movie, and I think he was able to. I think he felt a little more confident to change the world of this iconic comic book character into his own style.
Trust himself. Yeah, trust himself.
He was trusting himself, and he really turned this Batman world into his own style, even more so than the original film. And although I love Jack Nicholson's Joker, he's incredibly awesome in that movie. It's an iconic performance. But I gotta say, Michelle Pfeiffer's performance as Catwoman in this film has to be it's terrific. But it's also become like the standard bearer.
Would you say it's perfect?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, but I gotta say that I think that her performance as Catwoman, it's like the standard now. It's like the standard by which all other cat women are measured to, or compared to. And I think back then they were kind of this. Fans loved like the performance of Julie Newmar and Eartha Kitt, perfect. But I think Michelle Pfeiffer has kind of surpassed him as like kind of that, the iconic Catwoman performance.
Yeah, she was the total package though too. She had the look, she had the acting chops.
Yeah, and the character was really well written in this film. And I think she really it's really kind of Michelle Pfeiffer's movie, Batman Returns, and she steals the film from Michael Keaton. And I just love the chemistry between Pfeiffer and Keaton there. I mean, there's a sexy appeal to them. It's like this sultry chemistry that's very palpable, and it's spicy, you know, and you don't get that from, you know, today's superhero movies. There's like no romance at all with these.
No chemistry, no clicks, nothing.
They're kind of almost like robots in a lot of ways.
And I appreciate you choosing a Keaton one. People are gonna hate it, but it's not that I don't like Christian Bale. It's not that I don't like him. Not that I don't like him at all. I think he's great. And the 30 or so that were before him, with the exception of Kilmer, I like Kilmer, but dude, Keaton for me is the best Batman. I don't know why. He just is.
He's perfect.
Maybe it's because, when you think of the first one, the first movie blew you away that they could make movies about comic books and how cool it was. You know what I mean? Like everybody in the world, I'm Batman. You know what I mean? Everybody was saying that for years, dude. Yeah. People still do say that, but that's what I'm saying. Like that's him. That's his voice. He's the first one. Like, I don't know. Sometimes you just got to pay homage to the person who made that role as cool as it was. And for me, it's always him.
I agree, and I think he. Although I think maybe the argument for this movie and why a lot of people didn't like this movie is that the Batman character becomes kind of is stuck in the background while
he's almost second or third with DeVito. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like
the villains kind of take more of the center stage, but I still think he is a major part of this movie. I think that particularly that love story between Catwoman and Batman. And I gotta say, you know, speaking of Christmas movies, this movie has kind of one of the most iconic kissing scenes under a mistletoe. It's where Catwoman licks Batman's face. You know, so
it counts.
It counts, and also it has a great line where they say, "A mistletoe can be deadly if you eat it, but a kiss could be deadlier if you mean it." And I love that they repeat that line later when Selena Kyle and Bruce Wayne kind of realize that they're Catwoman and Batman, which is this really great scene. And then, you know, that's Christmas, baby. that's my type of Christmas. Okay, what's your?
That's a good pick.
What's your third pick?
See, and then I went for more classics. Okay, so my third pick is also they'd give Tim Burton credit, but my third one would be Nightmare Before Christmas.
Okay, I knew you were going to pick this one.
Yeah. Sorry, man. That's what when you were saying, I'm like, dude, that guy's going to pick Nightmare. Dude, my daughter watches this constantly. Like, it doesn't matter it's the holidays or not. She'll just turn on. I don't know if it's on Netflix or Disney Plus, and she just puts it on. But I mean, it's so funny because I always think to myself that Tim Burton directed it. He didn't direct it. Henry Selick directed it.
Right.
But yeah, he was like one of the masterminds behind it, and he's iconic for it being his masterpiece, his work or whatever. But I mean, everybody has to have seen this. They have to have. I mean, it's a brilliant movie from beginning to end, and it's so funny because when you watch the making of it, because you see it, you say, "Oh man, that's so great! Why don't they make more movies like this?" But the movie took like years to make.
Yeah,
like just because the stop animation, the way you film it. But it's iconic as far as it bridges Christmas and Halloween. So like we have stuff that we blow up for Halloween, and it never comes down till after Christmas because it's the Nightmare Before Christmas stuff. But I mean, all the characters there, dude. When you look at like Disney merch, they have so much now with this. That I don't know if they originally had it or whatever through one of their sub companies, but. Yeah, this is all you see. Like, I still have tubs and tubs from maybe, because the movie's made in 93, and I want to say between like 95 and 97, they came out with everything. There was like the Nightmare, this was before it was popular to have it. Like, it was like the Nightmare Before Christmas Monopoly, the Nightmare Before Christmas chess. You know what I mean? It's like they had all the different stuff. So I was like going around trying to buy up all that stuff, and I'm like, this is never going to end because they still put stuff out like that. Mm-hmm. They're still putting out new stuff with the Nightmare, but I love this story. I love how this guy, Jack, he's basically the king of Halloween time/land. He's getting, it's very lethargic to him. It's very the same thing every year. So it tells you the story of yourself. It's like, you don't have, well, so in the story, for the one person that hasn't seen it, so he gets tired. He finds a place where it has all the holidays. He wants to try something different. He goes into the Christmas holiday. He decides to steal Christmas. He wants Christmas to be his. He's still Santa Claus. He has Halloween Land, make all the toys. So as he's delivering toys and stuff, it's like they're not regular toys. They're like scary toys. So all of a sudden, Christmas Town has to try to get their Santa back so to save their basically holiday. And then Jack Skellington, he realizes it also. So now he also has to try to save, basically put things back to normal. And of course, there's a love interest. She's famous Sally. So he gets everything. He helps Santa Claus get back. There's there's like little things within his own land that try to slow him down and stop him, like 3 little pain in the butt kids and then Oogie Boogie. But so he gets everything back, and it's one of those things that I like that what the story kind of says, like, if don't get bored with what you do, you can be bored with kind of how you do it. You kind of need to step away sometimes, see other stuff, and then it'll make you appreciate what you got. Because at the end of the movie, he's all stoked about, next Halloween's going to be better than ever. So he just needed that little reprise, the little break. And I mean, even if like people aren't into cartoons, it's not really a cartoon. It's stop claymation, or what do they call it? Stop motion. And I mean, you have to be under a rock if you haven't seen it. But that's my number 3, and it's all about Christmas and Halloween, so it's a double holiday feature.
You got a couple tattoos.
Yeah, I kind of like it. I kind of like that flick.
Yeah. So what's on your arm? Jack Skeleton.
Yeah, it's funny. It's Jack and Sally, but the pose, I made up the pose because I saw they have them together, but I didn't like the pose. Mm-hmm. So the lady that did it, I kind of said, okay, I want them together, but I want them to look like this. So it's kind of crazy because if you look, there's a famous pose that they're in, and it looks like that's the tattoo, but then when you look closely, it's not. But people have that tattoo. It's just them holding each other, but their arms are different, and it kind of looks like a portrait of a old school like prom picture where she's slightly in front of him, but it's just the two of them. And I wanted to build more around it, but then on my other side of my arm, I got Frankenstein and the Bride of Frankenstein, so it kind of went with like a whole motif, just like couples.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, dude, I like the flick. My kids like the flick. I don't know anybody that doesn't like that flick, man. It's so good.
Well, maybe there's some who don't like musicals. I mean, this is highly, there's a very much.
I guess.
But I think.
But I mean, even it's Danny Elfman. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like even the music aspect is so good. It's just, and it's part of the story. So it's not like one of those typical where it stops and then they sing a whole thing, and people come. You know what I mean? And it kind of just to get a song in there.
Oh, right.
It kind of advances a story. So that's what I like.
Good. Okay. Good pick. I knew I had
it was coming.
I knew it was coming. Yeah. So for my second pick, I kind of went like you. I went a little unconventional. This is kind of a weird choice. I admit this is not like a Christmas movie per se, but I think it features one of my favorite Christmas scenes in a film. It's like, and it's also one of my favorite movies of all time. the movie itself, it's kind of set over a few decades, but there's a pivotal point in the movie where we see a kind of a memorable Christmas scene where Robert De Niro is extremely angry at his crew for buying expensive items like a new car or like a mink coat, and because he thinks it will draw too much heat on him. I'm talking about Goodfellas. My number 2 pick. This, the scene I'm talking about is this is right after the Lufthansa heist, and they knock off a airport, and they just they just scored like $5 million or so. And, it starts off with, we see Ray Liotta as Henry Hill, and he's in the shower, and he's listening to the radio, and is hearing the breaking news that the Lufthansa heist, and that they won some, it's a big score. This is maybe the biggest biggest crime score in history. And he goes, Jimmy, famously, that scene.
It's funny. I can see it in my head because he starts slapping on the wall, right?
Yeah. He goes, Jimmy,
like in the shower.
Jimmy. Yeah. And then it cuts to Robert De Niro at the bar with his hands stretched out, with a big smile on his face. And he goes, come here, you. And then you hear Frosty the Snowman by the Ronettes playing in the background. And it's just a warm feeling, a Christmas feeling. Although it's in this kind of gangster movie, it's, I love this kind of Christmas party that they have, and it's a celebration because of that big score that they were able to pull off. It's kind of also one of the few kind of joyful and celebratory kind of moments in the film.
Yeah, there's not a lot of those, man.
But as an audience member, we too are almost celebrating along with them, and it quickly turns dark because Jimmy, or Robert De Niro's character, he begins to notice that a couple of wise guys may have splurged with their winnings, and he's scolding one of the members of his crew, and he's tearing into him. He goes, "What did I tell you? Don't buy anything. Don't get anything. Don't buy nothing big. What's the matter with you? What's the matter with you?"
And draw attention. Yeah.
And then other guy comes in with the wife with the meat coat. He goes, "Get it out of here! Get it out of here!" Well, first off, that scene is awesome because it really shows you that in this mob world, even the joyful moments can turn dark in a minute. There's nothing there to there's no joy in this world, really. I mean, even though it's Christmas and you're supposed to have this really great celebratory kind of moment, it really there's no way to celebrate this stuff. Even the stuff,
everything has rules.
Yeah, everything has rules, and everyone's paranoid, and eventually everything goes to shit because people are going to die eventually. And what's also great about that scene is that Robert De Niro gives Ray Liotta his money. He goes, "Don't be a moron with this money." And then it cuts to him walking through his house with a big Christmas tree. And he goes, "Karen, I got the most expensive tree they had." And it's I love this scene. And that's what I love about Scorsese. What he does, he's able to kind of depict this kind of mob lifestyle, but also have this really great moments of family life that I relate to so much. I mean, because I remember like my dad buying Christmas trees, and it's never planned. It's always him coming back from like maybe the local grocery store, and he's like, "Okay, I just bought a Christmas tree. Help me bring it in." And that scene kind of reminds me when Ray comes in with the Christmas tree. It's kind of like it has this really great nostalgia feeling for me. Yet it's also in this kind of really gangster movie, No,
I get it.
Scorsese is able to tap into these kind of moments in people's lives that feel very familiar, and that's why first of all, this is why I kind of love this movie. This is one of my favorite movies, but also love this moment in the film, and it's kind of I have to put this on the list. So that's my number 2 Christmas movie.
Son of a bitch, I don't know how you got that in there, but it works. Yeah, that's one of the best movies ever made. But yeah, woo, that was good. Okay, for my number 2 entry, I've gone on the record of saying that I'm not a particular fan of Christmas movies. Mm-hmm. So if I had to label a pure Christmas movie, this is my favorite Christmas movie of all time. Stars one of the greatest comedic actors, Scrooged.
Oh, okay. Okay.
1988, Bill Murray, directed by Richard Donner. Okay. I don't know what it is about Bill Murray. I don't know if he made a deal with the devil when he was young, but the guy could make almost anything hilarious. And it's so funny because this is the classic Christmas Carol, right? They switch it up. They make, instead of Ghost, like they're Ghost, but like a Ghost is a cab driver. Then, you know what I mean? Vis-a-vis, it's all like modernized kind of. But Ebenezer is Bill Murray. He's president, huge company. So it's one of those type of deals. They bring it more modern. Mm-hmm. But what do you call it? He also has, there's a weird underlying story because he's got there's the whole Timmy, but they're played differently. It's like a secretary, the secretary's kid. There's even like a guy that he fires that day, or that gets laid off that day. He's the guy that he finds him later on, and he's like frozen to death or whatever. Anyway, so it's one of those things where it's literally Christmas Carol right down to the beginning, but he has such little nuances in the film that are hilarious. Like they're classic. There's like the one where he's getting, and the big thing is they're getting ready to put on a Christmas show, like a live Christmas show that's going to be the biggest thing the world's ever seen. And so he's trying to get it ready. He's trying to get everybody, and he insists on being like on the set kind of and watching stuff. And they have the famous scene where the guy comes up to him with a mouse, and he's like, "We're having a problem. We can't get the reindeer antlers to stick on these little guys." He's like, "We've tried glue, we've tried tape," and he says, "Have you tried staples?" He wants the staple. The damn reindeer. God, he's classic, and it's so funny because, okay, his performance is amazing. Okay, then there's this other iconic film, but I didn't find it. I found it a not holiday enough movie, which was Groundhog's Day.
Okay.
You can't say Groundhog's Day is a holiday, but it's that same kind of magic that he brings. Like if you like Groundhog's Day, for some reason you haven't seen Scrooge, you have to watch Scrooge. And he's such an evil son of a bitch in this movie. He's just mean and grumpy. And when he goes through all his things, it's kind of like he goes through with the ghosts of past, present, and future. Like you see a huge, what would you call it? Growth from him turning from one character to another character, like being heartless to actually having and enjoying the holidays, like understanding that Christmas isn't just something you make money off of. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things, and even the story itself, I wouldn't have particularly pulled apart unless it was done by him. But not only like if you're a Bill Murray fan, but his like kind of like love interest in the movie is I forget her name.
Karen Allen, right?
Karen Allen's Superman. Played Lois Lane, right?
No, she was Indiana Jones.
Oh, Indiana Jones, yeah. So she's in there. You remember this movie at all?
Not really. I mean, I
vaguely remember. I have to watch it again because there's a lot of like Carol Kane's in it. I think this guy they called Buster Douglas is not Buster.
Buster Poindexter.
Yeah, Buster Poindexter's in it. There's a bunch of little parts, and even Bobcat Goldthwait. He's the guy that gets fired in the beginning.
Okay.
I strongly recommend, if you haven't seen it in a while, watch it. It is so funny. I mean, the other day when I saw it, I was just like, wow, I think what it was when I saw it when I was younger, it was funny and it was entertaining. And as I saw it when I was older, it was even more funny. Like there's a scene where he has to pick gifts for people, and it's like, he has a choice between towels and a VCR. And so this is 1988. So a VCR was like, what, $500?
Yeah, it was expensive.
So it's
expensive,
like, so it was like he was reading off names, and it was like, Dan, you play squash, VCR. And then the next one's like, Frank, yeah, your brother Frank, towels. You know what I mean? It was just like the horrible. And then when he even shows up, or he's with the ghost of Christmas past, and he's watching like his brother's party that he didn't go to, that he never goes to, and he's opening gifts, and he opens the gift from him, and it's the VCR, and he goes, "Hey, he was supposed to get a towel." You know what I mean? It was just, oh man, it's so good. You got to watch that one. That's my entry for number 2.
Okay, there's number 2. All right, number 1. We're already at the number 1. So with my pick for number 1, I went with a kind of more traditional pick. It's kind of like classic. Really, this is kind of a no-brainer. It's A Christmas Story. I mean, I think it's a movie that I think represents 80s the most and represents my kind of childhood memories of watching this movie on TV. It's a film that's filled with nostalgia. It's a great family comedy, which I think maybe it might feel a little old fashioned by today's standards. That's only because today's standards are they're kind of more dumb. And this movie is not dumb. It's simple, but not dumb. And I think it's a very charming, it's a very delightful movie about kind of this family tale, and it not only conjures up my own kind of childhood memories, but it really kind of offers this idyllic American tale of simplicity and also innocence. And I think it kind of reminds you, or it makes you reminisce about your own childhood, where life was simpler back then, where life was kind of uncomplicated, particularly compared to the pressures of adulthood. And I think, because it's told through this perspective of this kid, Ralphie, who really wants this Christmas gift. He wants a BB gun, the Red Ryder BB gun. It becomes almost like a folktale, or it becomes like a fable for children. And so if you're a kid in the 80s and you're watching this film and you're about Ralphie's age, which I was when I saw it, you were kind of living vicariously through this guy. And so in many ways, I think this movie is kind of it's a comfort food. It's like a tension reliever. It's like watching. It's a mixture of a Norman Rockwell painting, but it's also kind of like a Mad Magazine cartoon. It's satirical yet familiar, and I think this movie was constantly in rotation. They would air this movie on TV all the time. It was kind of like an annual Christmas movie that my family would watch, because we didn't really have, HBO. We had like kind of basic cable, and this would always play, and we would always watch it. And I have this kind of deep fondness for this movie, and although I haven't really seen it in a very long time, but I just still have this kind of love for it, and I think. When I think of 80s movies and I think of Christmas, the image of this movie is kind of one of the first things to come up. And mainly that's because of my family. We're a bunch of TV watchers. And like I said, this is a kind of a brilliant kind of piece of nostalgia. I love kind of, the kind of basic kind of quotes from the movie. You shoot your eye out, and, and the father, he's kind of a little bit of an imbecile, There's a scene where he gets the big package. He goes, "For Gile, it must be Italian," So it's a funny comedy. I love it. It's part of my childhood. I mean, I can't deny how much this is so ingrained in my youth. So my number 1 pick, A Christmas Story.
Yeah, it's very Americana too when you think about it.
Yeah,
it's like it's like a Happy Days setting, with everything that they wanted to push as the American way of life for the kids. And I don't know, I always thought it was a good movie. My little brother Tony, this is his favorite movie, maybe of all time, but definitely of Christmas. Mm-hmm. And I know what you're saying. It was on TBS like every year. It was like TBS showed this, Jaws 1, Jaws 2, and then this again. That was like the rotation.
And Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah. That's how they made their living. But yeah, when he climbs back up the slide, reverse.
The Santa.
Yeah.
Kicks him in the boot. Yeah. Look,
shows him his face. Oh, it's a classic. And the little brother that gets his tongue stuck on the...
Oh, yeah, the pole.
But and what's funny is we were like... I mean, I grew up in, like, we didn't see snow. We didn't have any of that stuff.
Right.
So that was like... I thought that's the rest of the country was like that. And my wife grew up in Iowa. And she said, yep, everybody tries to do this the first time they find someone that's never seen the snow and the ice.
Oh, that's interesting.
They try to get them to do the tongue thing.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, I think because we're from West Coast, we're from California, most of our Christmas are very kind of sunny or, 70s degrees, maybe
with shorts.
But, watching this movie is kind of feels like maybe a holiday card or a Christmas card. It's like kind of that kind of nostalgia. Yeah, I think it's a fun movie, and it's directed by Bob Clark, and it's funny because he directs this kind of really sweet family comedy with this movie. Yet he is the guy who is known for directing Porky's, and he also directed earlier in his career he directed Black Christmas, which is kind of now a classic horror movie. And
wow.
So with this movie, he's like totally does like a 360 or 180, and I think it does have this underpinning of darkness into it. I mean, there's like kind of an edge to this movie than you would think. I mean, although it's kind of this sweet film.
Yeah, I remember too with the fragile, and then it's just it was so funny because it's just the leg with the pantyhose, and it's like risque, but he's in like love with it and wants it everywhere. And dude, you can't not mention the fudge.
Oh, fudge. But I didn't say fudge.
I didn't say fudge. I didn't. I said the mother of all bad words. I can't. Even though it might not be my favorite, I can't really see too many people not have seen that.
Yeah, I mean,
before.
it's one of the staples of Christmas movies. All right, let's get to your number one pick, Angel.
Okay, this may be a little off the board. RoboCop. No, just kidding. If I could have tied it in, it would have. Okay, like I said, I'm not a very holiday whatever, but hands down, the greatest holiday movie for me, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I don't think I could make a better movie. I mean, I haven't seen a movie that makes you laugh, it makes you cry, you feel everything all at one time. It's of course it's so funny because it's John Hughes, and almost everything he does, it's a brilliant write and it's a brilliant directing. But the Steve Martin and John Candy, it's almost for me it's better than the Blues Brothers type of chemistry that they got going.
Yeah,
and John Candy's character is kind of like it's almost like a muck. Like everything that he touches turns to crap. But with his life being as crappy as it is, he is pretty much all smiles the whole movie. Like he tries to look on the better side of everything. And then Steve Martin, who basically has like you would say a perfect life, he has one problem. He has one problem getting home. Like, it's just like a little thing that goes wrong, and then it just it snarls him into being like this moody guy. And then it's one of those things where I think he learns the lesson that when you just look at the bad, all you're going to see is bad. Mm-hmm. It compiles to literally like can't make the plane, can't make the train, then they try the automobile. So it's like different ways, and it's an easy movie. He's trying to get home for the holidays. The end. Mm-hmm. But what happens in between is so amazingly hilarious. And like we said early on an earlier episode, John Candy, he's one of the people that you hope doesn't get swept under, and people don't forget him because his body of work gets older. If anything, they should just regurgitate. Don't remake his movie. Put him all back out in the theater so people can get the exposure to him. But he's a mastermind in this, and he will make you laugh your butt off, and then he will make you cry. And I don't know, he's so good in this film, and like there's so many lines that a friend of ours, Danny, he passed away a little while ago, but he would say those aren't pillows. That line constantly There's a part where the guy's like, "Where's your, like?" He's counting hands. Basically, they're sharing a bed, and Steve Martin goes, "Where's your other hand?" And he goes, "In between two pillows." Then those are pillows. I mean, there's so many one-liners in there, and it's like every time Steve Martin just keeps trying to get away from John Candy, like almost like how you would blame something for your misfortunes. He's basically doing to John Candy. It's like, dude, everything that's shitty's happening because of you, because of you, because of you. And then when Steve Martin's by himself, it gets even worse. And the one there to pick him up is John Candy. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like that aspect always got me. Like, you get it. You can keep pushing somebody away, but when they want to help you, they want to help you. And some people want to help you because it's convenient for them, and some people want to help you because they want to help you. And it's like you end up pushing away the wrong people. And I don't know, he learns that in this movie. And then at the end, he puts the story together, and it'll make you cry. It will. I'll get teary right now.
Yeah.
It's just so good. And it's like, you don't see it coming, and then when it comes together, you're like, son of a bitch. And it's like, wow. And I don't know, you feel so good at the end.
You do. I think it's a heartwarming film. It's a rare comedy where it goes so many degrees of broadness. You know, at one point it's like a cartoon. There's physical comedy, but then there's also very clever dialogue scenes, funny one-liners, and then also there's just very much this sweetness in the film that you, like you were saying, you'll cry and you'll feel empathy for these characters. It's very hard to juggle all these kind of things, and John Hughes, you know, who's also passed away, and you know, along with John John Candy, you know, both of these two guys were perfect together. You know, they did Uncle Buck together. There was just
don't even get me started. Uncle Buck's so good.
So they're like this really perfect combination that I hope people kind of don't overlook these two people. And yes, I think this is probably one of John Hughes' and John Candy's best films,
best forms,
and I think
performances, films,
and I think it because it's able to balance the kind of the broadness of comedy with the sweetness of some of those emotional scenes.
Well, this is one of those movies too that if you talk about it, like you're like, oh, I saw Plane Trains the other day. It's just somebody overhearing you without turning around and be like, oh my god, I love that movie. You know what I mean? It's just, and it could be like an owner of a company, or it could be the guy that's sweeping the floor. You'll get that same reaction from everybody.
And it's another kind of one of those movies that were constantly played during Thanksgiving and also during the holidays. You know, it's a great pick. I love that movie, and I kind of knew you were going to pick that, so I didn't put that on my list.
Yeah, thank you. Or we would hate to agree, but dude, honestly, we have to do a John Candy show.
We have to. Yeah,
I mean, you have dude, Uncle Buck. I forgot about Uncle Buck till you said it, but then Uncle Buck, Great Outdoors. There's the man.
Harry Crumb. Who's Harry Crumb?
Who's Harry Crumb? You can watch almost any kind of movie you want to feel like watching with this guy. The only thing I don't think he ever did was maybe where he was like a psycho or anything like that. Not really, but he did a really short cameo in JFK as this really odd character. And he was so awesome at it. It made me kind of believe that he could have had this second stage of his career where he's a kind of dramatic actor. Yeah, I think he was so good in that movie. We definitely. Look, this is our kind of our last episode for 2021. If hopefully anyone who's listening to this, you prepare yourself. We're going to have a really great next year. We're going to have a lot of new episodes, and we're going to explore a lot of great films from the 80s and 90s. And so I'm pretty sure if you're listening to us, you're tied up in a basement and they're trying to break you. They're trying to break you by playing our shows over and over. So we want to say, stay strong. Help is coming.
Or if you just stumbled onto us, that we're just a couple of guys who are, love 80s and 90s movies. We grew up on these films, and look, we're going to have a big next year. We're going to have a lot of great episodes, and I will end with this, that, have a happy Christmas and a great new year. And we'll see you next year in 2022.
Have a good one, guys.